the usual hosts, Ryan and Jeff, blah, blah, blah. We got a great episode for you guys today. We got Mr. Tips. We got a nice interview with him. We got to talk a lot about a bunch of different people that he's been able to play with, his experience at Hoffman. It's a pretty fun interview. We're just going to start off today. Jeff has got us a nice CD of the day here. Yes,
all right. So my CD of the day is called The Beautiful Game by Vulfpeck. If you don't know Vulfpeck is a funk band. They recently played at the Madison Square Garden, which is really, really cool. And they play funk and they play all originals, and they're just tunes that make you want to dance. So this entire album is literally made for you to just kind of get upbeat, get grooving, and really get into that mood.
For the movie of the day, I've actually got a trilogy today, and not Star Wars, sorry, because that's not a true trilogy, because they went and destroyed that, but my opinion is unnecessary. This is a unbiased show. We give you the facts and the facts only here.
Yes, this is you can use us as a source for your information. If you have an essay, probably not a good idea.
Dude, don't do that, yeah. I've got the Back to the Future series, and I'd say first two are absolute hits. Second, not as many people agree with on that, but I really like the second one. And then the third is an acquired taste, It's a really great series. It puts a really fun spin on time travel. The classic car, the DeLorean, that's where it makes its appearance. If you haven't seen them, I'm a little disappointed. But we can move past it, I'm sure, in time at least. So go watch them. They're great movies. All right. Moving on over to our community positivity. We had volunteers giving gratitude and thanks to healthcare workers with a grand gesture. In New York, 1,300 luminaries were placed on the world's longest elevated pedestrian bridge over the Hudson River, spelling out thank you. It was over 200 feet long, and the bridge marked as an essential part by Governor Cuomo. And each bag was marked with honor, remember, and celebrate. And that says a lot. There's been so many things that have been done for healthcare workers, and just gestures like this, it's not going to necessarily physically impact them, but when we reach out, when we show them support, when we show them thanks, that means a lot to them. What they're
absolutely
doing.
And yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you've ever seen the photo, but it's massive. It's so big, and it was very impressive just to all the volunteers just kind of especially just on that big piece of bridge. It was massive. All right, so that's all we have for today's intro. So we're going to start taking it over to Mr. Tips' interview. So it was a really good interview. Hope you guys enjoy.
Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Tips.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So what have you been up to during all this time inside and just away from the world?
Well, doing e-learning. That's fun. So just trying to keep my head above water with regard to that. A lot of practicing. I bought a new trombone at the end of February. And that came maybe about 3 weeks ago. So been working on that. Sebastian's riding a bike with training wheels, so it's fun keeping up with him on that. And we've been exploring the forest preserve.
That's awesome. Actually, it's funny. I went on a bike ride with my sister after the park reserve, but we took the biggest route there was, not knowing. So we were just miserable throughout the entire time. Just 10 miles of just.
Jeff,
good Lord.
Turning wheels.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to start because not a lot of people know about your start into music. When you were a child, what got you into music?
My parents made me.
Did was trombone your first pickup instrument, or was it more just like in fifth grade you saw the trombone and you're like you saw it and you were like amazed with it?
Well, my parents, they said they saw that I wasn't doing anything productive, so they said, "You're going to do music, and we think that you would be good at band," probably because my dad was a band director, and or is, and they said, you can. I decided that maybe saxophone was something that I wanted to do. And they said, well, you have long arms, so why don't you give trombone a try as well? So when the day came to trying out instruments, I had a choice between the trombone and the saxophone, and the trombone made the least offensive noise between the two of them. So,
do you play saxophone today?
What?
Would you still want to play saxophone today?
No.
Yeah. Least offensive noise. I like that a lot.
Well, I put the mouthpiece in my mouth, blew, and then the most horrible squeaking sound came out, which I'm sure that you guys are familiar with.
Yeah.
And I mean, that happens now. I mean, it happens in the North Shore Concert Band. Mallory gets really upset when she hears random clarinet squeaks.
Ooh.
Get control over your instruments, people. Yeah, so I wasn't a fan of the idea of a squeaking instrument, so trombone seemed a good fit. And my grandfather and my uncle played it as well, so we've had trombone in the family for a long time.
That's awesome. And so growing up, you got you kind of just, I don't want to say centralize your career, but just kind of like you had a lot of focus in jazz and everything. Did your love of jazz come in at a young age, or did it develop when you were older?
Well, I've always been around it. My dad's been playing in big bands since before I was born, and listening to jazz at home. And my mom exposed me to a lot of classical music and as well as like 70s rock and all that kind of thing. But my dad had a really wide array of music that he listened to. We listened to the King Singers a lot, which is an a cappella male vocal quintet, or I don't know, there might be more people in there than just 5 people, but actually it's 5 or 6, I can't remember. But they're excellent. I listen to Sinatra quite a bit, and of course, big band stuff.
Of course, yeah. Did your parents have any kind of like help you through your kind of like musical journey in terms of just like training you, your like ear training, or just kind of like showing you new techniques and stuff like that, especially since your dad's a trumpet player or a brass player as well?
Not really. I mean, I kind of had the concept of what a good sound was from listening to him. But my mom tried to give me piano lessons when I was really little, like maybe 5 or 6, and I think I had 2. It didn't go well. But my mom was always practicing. My dad was always practicing, so I guess I got some sort of a work ethic from that, and I was around music in the house all the time. But later on, my mom and I got into fights when I was in middle school over practicing, and her line was, do this now, it's not a life sentence. Well, kind of became one. Okay. But when I was in high school, I saw I looked up to the senior all-state trombone player at Jacobs, who studied with a guy that I wanted to study with, and I took lessons with the senior trombone player for my freshman year, and then when he graduated, I replaced him in Mark Betcher's studio, and then I got pretty good at playing, so that kind of, you know, forged the trajectory for what I wanted to do in college.
It's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So
talking about college and stuff like that, we know you went to Roosevelt for your bachelor's and DePaul for your master's. So who did you study with while you're at Roosevelt?
Tom Garling. That was all 4 years. I took a couple of semesters with Mike Smith, who was the lead alto player and contractor for Frank Sinatra and then Sinatra Jr. And he's had a weekly stint at Andy's Jazz Club, or at least used to before everything happened. That, you know, once everything opens up again, I plan on visiting him fairly frequently. He plays from 9 to 1, so it's not an early night. But so I studied with him. Rob Parton, who's a wonderful lead trumpet player, now teaches at North Texas, was my jazz band director for 4 years. Tito Carrillo was my combo instructor for 4 semesters. But I learned from a lot of people there. Some of the best teachers there were actually the theory professors, who were hilarious and geniuses. So it was a lot of fun working with them too.
While you were in college, were you able to be gigging while you were studying?
Sure. I subbed for Tom Garling a few times on a wedding band. I played with David Liebman at the Green Mill. He's a tenor saxophone player. I think he's in New York now. But yeah, I played around quite frequently.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and so when you're in college and to get those gigs, like for us, especially Ryan and I, we're thinking, you know, performance in college and all that. What would you say would be some of the best ways to like get those connections and just get those gigs while in college to get the experience and all that?
Well, you're going to develop a network of friends and colleagues with the other students at the school. So form groups that you want to play with. Get really good on your instrument, and just be a good, reliable human being. A lot of the people who struggled, you know, weren't, you know, were excellent musicians, but they didn't have their personal life together, and they weren't very good at, you know, they didn't have a very good work ethic. So just be a good person and be a good musician, and you know, good things will happen.
So
it also helps too if that's something that you want to do. You need to be in an environment where those gigs are happening. So where you go to school will make a difference.
So do you have any favorite memories or stories from when you were in college that are okay for this?
Well, some of the best experiences that I had performing, I played in the Roosevelt Symphony Orchestra my junior year, second semester, and we did Respighi's Festa Romane and Carmina Burana. And I don't know how familiar you are with Roosevelt, but we share the auditorium theater. So that's where we performed that stuff, and performing Festa Romane and Carmina in the auditorium theater was an absolutely unbelievable experience. The other thing that sticks out in my mind, when I was a grad student at DePaul, we went on an old-fashioned bus tour, as Bob Lark called it, with drummer Jeff Hamilton. We played in Columbus. We started at the Jazz Showcase downtown, and then we went to Columbus, and then we went to the Poconos and played with Phil Woods there in Pennsylvania. And then we played at a church in Manhattan. Enjoyed a really awesome dinner at Ruth's Chris. So that was fun with the jazz ensemble. And then on the way back, played at a jazz club in Cleveland. So that was a lot of fun. And then later that same year, Bob had exhausted us with this tour. And then he got a call from Tim Rees, who was the saxophonist with the Rolling Stones. And Tim said, I've got a bunch of Rolling Stones big band arrangements. Would the band like to do a concert with me at Martyrs? And Tim and Bob had been friends since they were at North Texas together. So Bob asked us, he didn't say yes to Tim right away. He said, he asked us, since he knew that we were exhausted, would you guys feel comfortable getting this music together really quickly and doing a show at Martyrs? And we were like, hell yeah, why not? And two of the members of the Rolling Stones band, not Keith Richards and Jacker, I think it was Daryl Jones and bass player Daryl Wyatt, and the drummer joined us on a few of those arrangements. That was incredible.
That's so cool. Oh my gosh. And so just like you played with so many like iconic people and so many just like famous, historical, and just like very influential people like David Liebman, Paul Anka, Phil Woods, Johnny Mathis. And so like with playing with all these greats and just all these amazing players, what do you say would be like your greatest experience, from playing with all these people?
Well, if you put all of those things together, playing rock tunes with or rock arrangements of Stones tunes, Carmina, doing shows with Johnny Mathis, need to be as well-rounded as possible, and you need to be able to play classical, you need to be able to play pop. I've played in a bunch of wedding bands, and it's not fun playing My Girl for the 100th time, but you still need to do it. You still need to sound good if you want to keep getting those gigs, which incidentally do pay really well. And the bands are really good too, for that matter. So that's a plus. But you need to be as well-rounded as a musician as possible, and that's what I've taken away from all of those things.
We just wanted to think. So when you're playing a solo, what's your process? What comes to mind? What influences your solo when you're playing?
An improvised solo or
improvised solo.
Well, I take into account the style of the tune. I'm not going to play rock on a Dixieland beat. So, having as many influences to draw from, so that you're ready for, whatever the style is. And then it's just a matter of vocabulary. It helps using the melody of a tune. If you're the second or third soloist, I listen to the guy before me and try and try to see where they ended their solos, and then I try to pick it up from where they left off, so that there's some kind of continuity. So that's what I'm using, and then I never really have a plan. It's just with the exception of what my first idea is going to be, and that can change at the last minute. But I always have a plan in terms of like the shape that you want the solo to go, whether you want it to be an arc, or whether you want to start high, come down, and then build it up again, or whether you just want to just keep building on it in intensity. That's really the only formal plan that I try to have, and sometimes I'm successful, and sometimes not so much. But
It's really cool.
Yeah. And so, just kind of moving a little bit, shifting a little bit more into your teaching and all that. What kind of just drove you to teach and just kind of like not necessarily give lessons, but become a band director and just come to Schaumburg and teach with the cadet band and the concert band and all that?
Well, I discovered that I enjoyed teaching after a number of years doing private lessons and directing the jazz bands and doing brass sectionals at Fremd. So I went back to school to DePaul, got my ed certification, and Schaumburg hired me for the part-time position. So it was a good, it was a really good experience working with you guys, and now I'm doing orchestra. We'll see how long that lasts.
Do you enjoy teaching the orchestra at all? Just is it how different is it just compared to band and just working from winds to strings?
Well, from an ensemble perspective, it's very similar. So if you're rehearsing an ensemble, the fundamentals of playing together, have to be there. I'll address, certain technical aspects like tone and various technique things if I need to, but for the most part, it's just, are they playing together? Are they playing with a good sound? And are they playing musically? And from that aspect, you have to adjust your approach somewhat, but rhythm is common between all groups. I teach rhythm the same way to strings that I do to winds. Conceptualize it first, and then apply the mechanics to the instrument. It's really not that different.
So how was the transition to Hoffman this year for you?
Chaotic.
But over here at Schaumburg, we miss you terribly, and we hope everything's going well over at Hoffman and everything like that.
Thank you. It's been going really well, and it's certainly been a lot of fun, coming back to the school whenever I need something.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up a little bit right here. But if you want, do you have any kind of if you want to speak to the band directly, a lot of members of the band watch this. So if you have like any message to the band, kind of speaking directly to them, what do you guys say?
Well, I know it's been a trying time for everybody, but probably the biggest thing, I'm practicing more than I have in years, probably since I was in college. And it's not out of it, I don't have any gigs coming up, but it's a lot of fun to get the instrument out of its case, and it's therapy. If you guys do the concert for yourselves, as a way of kind of recapping the night and doing something fun for yourself. Well, playing an instrument for yourself, practicing is something that you can do for yourself to take your mind off of the current situation. So, whatever you can do, I know that homework is kind of meaningless, but again, that takes your mind off of the current situation as well. So whatever you can do to give yourself some normalcy and a break, do that. So.
Well said.
Well,
Thank
yeah.
Thanks for giving us your time today. It was pretty fun. And we learned a lot about you for sure.
Yeah, it was good to see you guys.
Yeah, it's good to see
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. You too, Mr. Tips. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are your plans for next year?